Hello, thanks again for your time during our discovery call to talk about your approvals for your trips. We are ready to complete the worksheet for school contact information, where you're going to give me information about your locations, about the approval flow, the people who approve trips at those locations, and anyone else in the school who has authority from that location. We have talked about the worksheet, and that worksheet may be customized for you. You will find it attached to your task. Let's take a look though at the worksheet, just generally speaking, before you start filling it out, just to remind you of some of the columns and what needs to be in those columns. First of all, let me remind you that you are going to be giving me email addresses, and please ensure that those email addresses, are correct, and the information that you give, because those email addresses will be where the notifications are sent to from the travel tracker. So if the email is not correct, then we're going to not be able to notify that person when it's their turn to do something, and they will also have trouble logging in. So if they register their correct email and we have an incorrect email in the table, there will be a problem there. So try to be sure that you do give us the correct email. In your columns, any column with an asterisk is a required column. There needs to be some information in there. And then some of the columns are optional, and we would have talked about that during our discovery call. Column A is your school ID number or the school code. You can see here in the example we've got 000 for transportation, and that is already in your system, but if you have a different code for transportation, you can go ahead and change that, provide us with the correct code. School codes are a lot of times, if you're going to use your budget codes or account codes in the travel tracker, those school codes are in the account codes, and they need to match sometimes depending on how we set up your funding sources. So that could be the school code. Some districts don't really use school codes, and if you don't, you can just assign any unique number to each of your locations, or if you would like, we can assign a school code. Column B is the school or the department name of any requesting location. So anywhere that there would be someone needing to request a trip, even central office or a department central office, if they're going to be going on trips, and then you need to give me their the name of their school and or department. If you have the physical address, if you want to provide that, particularly if it's like a department, because I can always Google the school name, and find the address, but if it's department, it may be tough to find the actual physical address. So that's important to give me that physical address. And do give me the physical address of the transportation department. That would also be helpful. Column C is the zone. That is one of those fields that you may not have zones in your district, and we of course would have talked about that. So if you don't use zones, then that's something that you don't necessarily have to provide. Column D is a school abbreviation. The abbreviation is used on the calendar in Travel Tracker. So give a school abbreviation, a 3-4 letter abbreviation to abbreviate each school or department. Column E is your bookkeeper email or the person who pays invoices at this location. So the person who is listed here will be notified when the invoices are approved for payment. So that's what this email is. Column F is the email for our child nutrition contacts, and there can actually be up to 4 different emails provided, and when the trip request the requester indicates that they are going to be away during lunch or going to require packed lunches, whoever is listed as a child nutrition contact will be notified. Column G is the email of the person who schedules the buses that are at this location. So if your district has what we would call vehicle owners at the schools, this might be the athletic director or the assistant principal a lot of times, or whoever it may be that's responsible for scheduling those buses that are at that school. maybe those activity buses or the yellow buses that are at the school and they're responsible for it. Provide me the name of that individual. We call those the vehicle owners at the school. Now, it's possible there are many districts that don't have owners at the schools. Transportation assigns all of the vehicles no matter where they are. So if this is the case, you can ignore that column. We'll be putting in the individual at transportation that you have designated as being responsible for assigning vehicles. Column H is the email of the school nurse at the location. As you can see, there can be up to 2. School nurses will be notified if the requester indicates that there are students with health concerns on the trip. Now the next 3 columns, column I, J, and K here, are for the level 1 approval. And remember, we've talked about that all trip requests have to have at least one approver, one person designated to look at the request and approve it. And so that's this one. That's why there are asterisks on all 3 of these. You can have a different person at each school that approves different types of trips. So maybe there's a field trip approver that might be the principal, and then maybe the athletic trip approval, if it's a high school, might be the athletic director, and then maybe the principal approves staff trips. So whoever it is at the school that's going to have to at least be the one person who is going to approve trips will be indicated on these 3 columns. If you don't if you're not using Travel Tracker to manage your staff travel, then we will have hidden that column, and of course we would have talked about that during our discovery call. So this is the very least we're going to need. I remember, of course, that your elementary schools, obviously probably don't have athletic trips. If that's the case, if it's an elementary school, most of the time we'll just fill in whoever is responsible for field trips. We'll fill that in as being responsible for athletic trips, and we can do that when we set up your tables for you. The remainders of the columns are for other levels of approval, and we would have talked about that during our discovery call, and the remainder of your worksheet may be customized to the different levels that you're going to be needing at your district. So just continue to fill in the form with the email addresses of the individuals who should be with that a particular authority or with that level of approval. And once you have filled all of the email addresses in, given us that information, then you can just attach the completed school contacts information worksheet back on the task and mark it done, and then we will work on getting your location table set up from the information that you have given us. Once you mark it done, then we will send you your next task. So if you need help or have questions, don't hesitate to let us know. You can always mark this task stuck and we can contact you. But once you have completed it, remember to attach it back on the task, the completed with all the columns completed, all the emails entered, and mark the task done. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.